Welcome to Downton Abbey, a podcast by a Downton Abbey fan for Downton Abbey fans to share stories, thoughts, and feelings about the TV series, the movie, and other Downton-related experiences and topics. My name is Sandy Max. I'm a TV, radio, and event host based in Milwaukee. SandyMax.com gives you a look at what I do, and it's where you can contact me. In this episode of Downton Abbey, you'll meet an English lass who appears in the Downton Abbey movie. Then movie reviews, complete with spoilers from a new voice, my radio coworker and gal pal Mo. Mary, my dear friend from my Marquette college years, returns with her review, and I share mine. Let's get started with young Yorkshire actress Meg Olssen. She shares her experience as an extra as an aristocrat in the Downton Abbey film's ballroom scene. Meg is just 18 years old, so really starting out with some onstage and on-screen experience, and she was kind enough to Skype with me on a Saturday afternoon. Please forgive a few of the transglobal audio glitches, but enjoy her stories from the film set and behind the scenes. Hello, Meg. First things first, have you seen the Downton Abbey movie?
Yes, I have.
Yes. How many times?
Only once now, but I'm definitely going to watch it again.
Did you go with family, with friends?
I went with my mum, and my mum's a massive fan of the show, so she was super excited. We went and watched it all, and she was wanting to take pictures after the poster, was wanting to say, my daughter's in it. Yeah, she's definitely very happy.
So because it was on the big screen, did you catch glimpses of yourself?
Yeah, I did. Obviously, I saw bits where I was blurred in the background. I could see my face sipping fake champagne. And it was that thing where you just want to pause the television, but you can't.
Exactly. It was like, wait, that's me. Well, I like that you described yourself on Twitter. I'm in the ballroom scene drinking champagne. So the second time I saw the film, because I'd seen it once already, so now I can enjoy more of the background, during the lush ballroom scene. And because you tweeted a picture of yourself with the headband, and I'm like, maybe I can spot her. So yeah. I felt like I did, because there's one shot in the ballroom scene, because every now and then they go a little slow motion, not super slow-mo, but it's like this slow motion look across the orchestra. And it follows a young lady, who's sipping champagne. And I'm like, I wonder if that's Meg.
Yes, it was me. They had a massive crane in the ballroom for it. And they had the camera, that old one's kind of train track type invention. So they had very new technology when they was filming it all.
Now that you've seen the film, what's your one-word review of the movie?
Amazing. Amazing or glamorous.
And what's your one-word review of your experience on the set?
Magical.
Aw. How many days of filming? How long was the shoot?
It was 3 days shoot for that one scene in the ballroom, and they had it in two different locations. So one location was in Wentworth Woodhouse, where they had the inside scenes. The other location was Harwood House, where it was all set and they did outside takes.
Oh, so you got to really go to that beautiful historic building. Oh, what an experience. Had you ever been there before?
Yeah, I had when I was little growing up. So it was so weird to be there. And it was as if I was back in time. There was all these paintings everywhere in the hallway. I was just like, oh my God.
What took you to Harwood House when you were a kid?
It was more day trips with the family, really, because I'm near in the area, so I'm not too far away. So it'd be on a family trip and you're going to see the stately homes and just looking around. So it was really weird to be there, but filming in it, the Downton Abbey films, so it was a very weird experience.
Well, I'm glad, because I wondered if you were just in a studio set for the ballroom, because I would have felt like it could have been sort of disappointing to know that I'm going to be in the Downton Abbey film, but I'm not going to be anywhere near Highclere Castle or actual Downton Abbey. So at least you got a touch of beauty in a historic manner like that.
Yeah, it was definitely a lot more magical, and it felt a lot more real as well when using it. Everything was so beautiful.
Did you have to go early to get costumes? What's that process like?
So, well, at the beginning, we had a fitting, and a lot of their costumes are real vintage costumes, so you have to be really delicate with them. Obviously, they have all of your measurements, so they got mine on, and luckily it fitted perfectly. And they have all the accessories, so they decide if you're going to have a tiara with it or if you're going to have a necklace and earrings. So it's really, really cool how all the designers are trying to pick out what will go better. And then after the fittings, you go to the filming, and it's like at 5 a.m. sometimes that you need to be there for till 8 or 7 at night, so really long shoots.
What does it feel like when you're getting fitted and all that? Like you said, it must have felt special when knowing that what you're wearing really is vintage. It's not just something that they made in a pattern.
Yeah, it was definitely really special, and it made you take a lot more care in what you was wearing and how you was walking. So especially when we was eating, obviously they would have bibs on us, so we didn't get anything on our dresses. So I'd have to be careful what I was getting to eat because I was too afraid to get anything in my hair or on the dress. I was like, no, I can't eat anything saucy.
You said it was long hours.
Well, yeah, they always like to get different angles, and they always have different shots, and it was really cool actually being there and seeing how they did it all. And obviously they'll want a reaction off one of the actors, so Maggie Smith, so they would want a reaction of Maggie Smith when she's talking to someone else, and then they would switch it around. So it was really nice to be there and see how it all happened.
Now, watching a professional production like that is its own choreography of technology and knowing the sequence of how they're going to do the wide shot and then get closer and closer. I find that to be a fascinating process, and that's why I was going to ask you, like, did this kind of solidify your passion for acting?
Yeah, definitely, because there's that thing where you're an extra, but you're just like, oh, I wish I was acting right now. I just wanted to absorb everything that was around me and really take it in.
Are there rules for interacting with the speaking talent?
There's never any rules. They never say anything out, but I think you're not really supposed to go up to them and speak to them out of the blue, especially if they're in scenes. But they're all of the actors are really lovely anyway. Imelda Staunton, who's in the film, one of them, she came over and spoke to us and asked how it was going and said well done to us, which was really lovely. So it's nice when they come over to you.
She's one of those established actresses. Mm-hmm. I mean, you were really around some incredible performers.
Yeah, Maggie Smith was there. I remember one point she asked where they wanted her to look, where her point of view was to look in one of the scenes, which I thought was very handy, because sometimes if you're in a scene and you have to have a point of view if the camera's near you or something. So I thought that was really good to see that. And obviously Imelda, because it was such a big ballroom, you're not always really close to them. And you try not to look too much and put anyone off, but you're still really wanting to look at them. Well, yeah, she was just in the scene a lot and in character when she was in the scenes, but then really polite afterwards. Matthew Good, who plays Henry, between scenes, I noticed, just like walking around and just whistling to his own tune. And there's a lot of extras that was in awe of his beauty. And I saw Hugh Bonneville, who came in just to see what was going on, and they was all just really lovely and really nice. It was just really, really great to be there. They
sound like they're consummate professionals, but also enjoy being there.
Yeah. There was you could definitely tell that they was all very close with each other. There's always laughing in between takes and having a really good time. And obviously there was points where it was people's last days, so everyone was saying goodbye to each other. They definitely all got along really well.
Interesting.
I think it might have been the guy who plays Tom in it. I think it might have been one of his last takes on one of the days, and we all applauded on his last take.
So it seems like you were around the London Chamber Orchestra.
Yeah, that was really cool. I think they found it hard because obviously in some scenes they couldn't actually play their instruments because they needed to hear the actors speak. So they found it really weird having to mime. A few of them found that a bit hard. But it was really cool. It just felt really weird to have all these big actors and being in a ballroom and a really well-known orchestra. I was just like, where am I? There's a historian on set as well. He showed us all the etiquette of how the aristocrats would act in that era.
Are you talking about Alistair Bruce?
I'm not sure if it was Alistair Bruce. It might have been. And he told us how to sit in our chairs, and that we couldn't sit on the back of our chairs because the back of our chairs was for the footmen to push forwards and push outwards to let people sit on, especially the ladies.
So it was like a crash course in 1927 behavior.
Yeah, it was. It was, I could learn all this etiquette. It's like princess school.
How did you get cast as an extra in Downton Abbey?
Obviously, I'm with the acting agency, but for the summer, I decided to go in an extra agency because I thought it would be something fun to do over the summer and keep me busy. And so I started doing a lot of extra work in kind of UK period dramas. The Downton Abbey came in. They get your picture and what you look like, and then all of your measurements, your height, and obviously basically if you would fit the clothes that they have for you. And luckily, I did.
Did you watch Downton Abbey before you got cast as an extra?
I did, yeah, because my mum would always be watching it. So I did watch it quite a lot at home. And then I had a bit more of a re-binge before I went on set. I was too afraid of not realising an actor or something or anything like that. But yeah, no, I've watched it.
And now that you've seen the film, do you feel like you can give a fan review?
It definitely had all of the Downton Abbey feels in it. It was just nice having the music, the soundtrack, you know, that you usually listen to at the beginning, like dun, 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 dun. It was just nice having that with it. But I liked, with all the downstairs cast, the kind of rivalry. It was quite comedic. It made me laugh. And then obviously all of Violet Crawley's, all of her sarcastic comments obviously was throughout all of it. I absolutely love that character.
Anything else that you enjoyed about the film?
I'm biased, but I really enjoyed the ballroom scene. But it was nice watching it to actually see what was happening in it rather than just kind of being in the background trying to figure out what's going on. But it was nice, and I think it was really sweet with Lady Mary and how she's going to take on Downton Abbey now. That was a nice closure to it.
How did your mom like the movie?
Oh, she absolutely loved it. She was really excited beforehand. I think, yeah, she got teary at a few points as well. Yeah, she was a bit emotional watching it.
That's adorable.
Yeah.
And that's great that you could share it with your mom.
Yeah. Yeah, it was funny because the people next to us was another mother and daughter. There was quite a few kind of families going to watch it. Because obviously it's the kind of thing that you watch at home on an evening with the family, so it was nice to see everyone coming out to watch it in the cinema.
So the big question now that I will end with, sequel or no sequel, Meg?
I would like a sequel. I think there's definitely room for one. I think how they've left it off, I think there definitely could be room for one.
This is going to be one of those experiences I feel like you're going to carry with you for a while.
Yeah, definitely. I always remember it was the first kind of big film that I was in, even though I was an extra. I was still part of it, and it will always be something that I'll remember.
Hi, this is Maureen, or Mo, as most people know me. I am in media sales in Milwaukee. I am a huge Downton Abbey fan.
And you've seen the movie?
I have.
Give me your one-word review.
Brilliant.
What were some of your favorite parts of the film?
The constant bickering between Maggie and Isabel. I mean, they did take it up a notch, but it was very, very fun and delightful to watch.
What were some of your other favorite parts?
I think the ending was delightful because it was very upbeat. I think Downton Abbey sometimes can be somewhat dark, has a little bit of darkness to it. So I think they wrapped it up in a pretty bow at the end, which I loved. I loved the scene with Mary and Grandma where she shares that she is sick. I thought that was done very, very well. But it wasn't too dark. It just was part of, their whole life at Downton, which she should be probably about 180 years old by now, right? So it's time. It's time that she probably does pass on.
She wasn't living a hard life.
No, she was not. She was not living the hard life at all. Great character. I kind of had wished that they had brought, oh my gosh, I'm blanking on the actress. Beautiful redhead, reincarnation. She was what's her name's mom?
Shirley MacLaine.
Shirley MacLaine. Yes, thank you.
Cora's mom.
Yes, Cora's mom. I was really hoping that she might make just a guest appearance.
Sure.
And I was kind of surprised she hadn't.
Well, and on that line, remember Paul Giamatti played Cora's brother.
Yes.
That would have been cool.
That would have been very cool. Absolutely. Absolutely. And Mary, I was a little surprised I thought her performance was a little flat, or maybe it was just how they had her positioned in the movie. I just didn't see the same sparky, I shouldn't say sparky. That's probably not the right term for her.
I think more Anna when you say sparky or spunky,
Yeah, Anna's spunky and sparky. I don't know. I just felt that she just wasn't, the character didn't seem the same in the movie as it did in the TV series to me. And I was a little disappointed by that. You know what else? You're going to laugh. You saw her freckles in the movie, which you never saw. She always had that porcelain skin on the TV series. I was like, she's been out in the sun. She's been following Coco Chanel.
What does that mean?
Coco Chanel is the one that brought the whole idea of tanning to be tan into vogue back in the 20s.
Oh.
Yes. So I thought, well, maybe, she decided to, get that lovely porcelain skin out in the sun, and therefore she got those freckles.
We've talked about some history on this show before, but never the Coco Chanel tuning the fashionable crowd into sunbathing. Very interesting. Maybe it's a very historically accurate makeup artistry.
I doubt that. And I think it's funny that was something that I even noticed, but I did.
But it's on the big screen now, so there's a lot of things I feel like I've read in interviews that all the costuming had to be, you couldn't get away with a thread here and there. Like you really had to have high quality costuming and makeup and hair and the wigs and that sort of thing. So because it's on the big screen.
I'm blanking on the sister's name, Mary's sister.
Lady Edith?
Oh, yes, Lady Edith. Well, I think that they really did a grand job with her as far as the scene where she's, sitting in all her lingerie. They really showed her off. Like, she's no dog anymore, right? I mean, I'm sorry, but I was like, wow. She did rockin' bod.
Yeah, I noticed too that she looked a little voluptuous in her tap pants outfit.
Yes. Yeah. So I was very happy for her. And now she's pregnant. Oh, Lady Edith finally got a happy ending, right?
She has blossomed, except she still has to bemoan her wealthy lifestyle. She has to have boring lunches. Boo-hoo, Edith.
She is a liberated woman. Come on. That was her, that will be the next segue. It's going to be going into the whole women's liberation, and she will be heading the cause, Lady Edith.
Anything else that you were surprised by in the film?
I don't think there was anything I was surprised by. I just thought it was really lovely. I thought that, as I said, it wasn't as dark sometimes as the TV drama. And it had enough ups and downs, but I thought it was much more playful. I thought the characters were more playful. It was a little more fun, upbeat.
I like the word playful. I think that's a really great characterization of it. And I just chuckle again when you say dark. It's like, yeah, there was no jail terms. There was no murder. There was no death in this,
No.
There was a tiny attempt
Right.
A tiny attempt.
Yes, a tiny attempt. No, but with the darkness, I just think was because the emotions were portrayed so well. I think you really could tap into that. Mm-hmm. So, which is one of the reasons my husband sometimes would be like, "Why are you watching this? Like, what? How do you even understand what they're saying?" Well,
but you took your husband to the film?
I did.
And how did he enjoy the film?
Well, he had a delightful meal, and he had a couple beers, and he, you know what? I think he actually enjoyed it. He actually was open, and he said, "No, it's pretty good."
Is there anything that disappointed you in the movie?
I would have liked to have seen Cora a little bit more. She seemed kind of in the background too, but she kind of is a background character in many ways.
Except when she's hanging out with Richard E. Grant, getting her art on.
Well, that's true. That's right. Yeah.
That's when Robert popped him in the jaw.
That's true.
I do like Lord Grantham. I think just because I enjoy Hugh Bonneville so much, but I also recognize when you have such a huge cast. I think at one point I saw in some write-up, like it's 17 characters if you count upstairs and downstairs and storylines. So it would have been really challenging to give everyone a meaty role. So I feel like the film touched on everybody and you got a little bit of time with each of your favorite characters. But for example, if you really wanted to see Anna and Mr. Bates and their kid, you got one flash, of the tiny Bates family, and a little bit of Mr. Bates. And it was a very friendly, cheerful Mr. Bates. There was no smoldering Bates in this. Mm-hmm. So the big question is, sequel or no sequel?
Sequel. Yes. Absolutely. Sandy, I told you this will be our Star Wars. They'll have prequels, sequels.
I have been pushing for a Charming Charlie's prequel. Do you remember that Mr. Carson was in a vaudeville group?
Yes. That would be awesome.
Yeah,
I would love a prequel with Maggie Smith young. Wouldn't that be? And who would play her?
That's a good question. Or her days when she was running with the Russian prince. And
exactly. When she was running with the Russian prince. Yes. Yeah. Yes. I do think they're going to do something.
Yeah.
It's too big of a franchise not to, don't you think?
I think it would be a challenge to get a lot of the cast together. But I have to think that because this is such a worldwide phenomenon and franchise and was for 6 seasons, and Julian Fellowes is smart, and the production team of Gareth Neame and Liz Trubridge, they're not going to just try this and not plan for, if it goes really well, what would be the next step. I have to think that they've already talked with Julian and said, okay, you're key to this. Your words make this rock. And they always have, because Julian Fellowes wrote every single episode. Kind of like where Game of Thrones fell off a little bit out of favor because the writing changed hands. If Julian Fellowes is involved, there's no way they didn't have a conversation with him saying, what would be your 2 and your 3 if this rocks?
Correct. And if they did a prequel, they don't have to worry about all the actresses because they'd probably need to find younger versions, which I think, and that could be weird or it could be brilliant. Yeah. Again, I mean, I think, but I would love that. I think it would be extremely fun.
This is Mary, and I am a former college roommate of Sandy's, but longtime friend and Downton Abbey fan.
Let's start with your one-word review.
Charming.
That's a good word. So what were some of your favorite parts of the film?
So Mosley and his just sheer glee at the royal visit it's just delightful. And of course, his big scene during the dinner where he speaks out of turn, if you will, and is just hilarious and sweet and charming. But of course, the Dowager Countess never fails with the one-liners. Love it. And I would have to say that Mary's "you devious cat" is something I need to adopt in my own life because that is an awesome phrase.
That is a good line. And it's also nice that she's actually conversing pleasantly, or as pleasantly as possible, with her sister Edith in that.
That's true. I wouldn't say necessarily that they've warmed to each other, but it's perhaps less frosty than it was.
Considering they both are kind of bitchy to each other, for Lady Mary to say that to Lady Edith is like high praise. Like, you're so cunning, just like me.
It's that nod of, ooh, yeah, okay, well played.
Right.
Yeah, the respect level goes up a little bit right there, and I like that. That was good.
Were there parts of the film where you felt like other people enjoyed it, or you could hear a crowd reaction, whether good or bad or shocked?
Well, I think everybody has a soft spot for Tom and the maid, Lucy. Everybody wants to see Tom happy. So there's a little bit of an awe when you get them together. I think that everyone tears up a little bit with Violet's speech to Mary towards the end. It is a very touching moment. I agree. I think in general, sort of the caper going on in the downstairs with the staff, everybody seems to enjoy that. You can kind of hear people chuckling as they're getting their backs up against the king's staff, and as they plot how to get the better of them. People like that. So, yeah.
Was there anything that surprised you in the movie?
Not necessarily. I think that they do a good job of touching all the major storylines and giving you at least a little bit of what's going on with everybody. I did want to know, wasn't Andy going to be a pig farmer? Like, is he just like working in the house and not farming pigs? And what happened to the old farmer that Daisy was going to help out and kind of was sweet on Mrs. Patmore? I could have used a little bit more of that because I do like Mrs. Patmore. But no, in general, I think that they hit a lot of the high points, and so it was good. And didn't Carson have, a health issue that is just not addressed at all? And I feel like there was maybe just a little bit, but you can't touch on everything and keep it at a reasonable 2-hour length. You would have gone on for several days if you'd gotten everybody in there. So overall, I think they got the high points.
Well, see, because you bring up Carson and the shakes that he had that were so bad that he couldn't be the butler at Downton Abbey anymore and I was watching when they first show him and he's gardening and I'm like, oh, he's pulling the carrots all right.
Yeah. Well, and when he does have to go and serve the king and queen, he looks perfectly fine to me as far as the shaking goes. So, yeah, I think that one was maybe glossed over. Maybe he was under a lot of stress prior to leaving, and a little time off has cured him of his shakes, palsy, whatever they called it.
You say that, but I would think that if they were stress-induced, having the king and queen there would amplify that. But I'm glad to look over it. I'm wonderfully thrilled to have Carson back. I feel like I have to apologize, but it's like, but it was one of those plot lines where I'm like, and it's more like I'm worried about him. I feel like Carson is someone that we all care about. So I'm like, well, is he okay? Should you put him back in that situation? Don't you care about him? Because that's why he wasn't there in the first place, because he was concerned that he couldn't serve to the levels of perfection. So it comes from love.
I know. And you could tell Elsie, Mrs. Hughes, was a little worried about him as well. She was a little sort of put out, I think, that he was going to come back and do the job, which I like to think came from a place of love as well, not just annoyance.
I do love at the very end of the film when they're walking out through the front door. Yeah. Ooh, Carson's like, they won't mind on this occasion. Like, oh, he's a rebel.
Because they're at the ball and wouldn't know anyway, but that's okay.
But I dig that they call each other Charlie and Elsie.
Yes. Oh, yeah. So sweet.
So anything that disappointed you in the movie?
Could have had a little more Henry, because I have a soft spot for Henry Talbot. But, I guess he's a busy, important actor as well, so I understand. I thought that maybe some of the plot line with Princess Mary, and she clearly is unhappy with her husband. Like, if you don't really know the whole history, it probably is a little bit of a throwaway, like sort of what's going on. She doesn't like her husband. She wants to leave her husband, which just as someone who is fascinated by that sort of royal history stuff, it made me think, now wait, what's happening? Now wait, who is that? Now what's going on? But to be fair, I did go and pick up a 900-page biography of the Queen of England so that I could read about it more and find out what the story is. So, I guess it worked on me. So I can't really say it was disappointing.
Did you buy the 900-page book about Queen Mary before or after you watched the film?
between the 2 times that I've seen the film. I didn't buy it, though. I got it from the library because, yay, libraries.
Yeah.
And also, 900 pages might be a little bit more than I can actually get through. So I'm going to skim through the parts where I need to know things.
I like that Downton Abbey inspired you to dig even more into English history.
Oh, it did. And obviously, they know people are going to be looking. So they're, the king and queen did travel around, and Mary was apparently not very fond of her husband. He was sort of not very pleased with their children. So, they stuck true to life there with the story. So I'm learning stuff.
In a very entertaining way.
Indeed.
So you've seen it twice now. Was there anything that you noticed more the second time?
What I think is funny is that the things that were funny the first time are still funny the second time around. When Violet and Isabel are going at each other, it's the best because the two of them together are just fantastic.
The big question, sequel or no sequel?
I don't know. I mean, it was very well known that the Dowager Countess did not want to do the movie to begin with and was only convinced after much persuasion. And I know there was a lot of speculation that the movie was going to go very far into the future, almost as if maybe the kids were, the young kids, the Sibbies and the Georges were going to be the star of the show. I don't know. I think they've set it up for the possibility, but I also think it's kind of perfect the way it is, and maybe it can just be done. This sort of was a nice ribbon on top of the package, and I'd be okay with it if there's no sequel.
And now, Mary gets the microphone to get my movie review.
I know you've seen it a few times now, the movie, but can you tell me what your one-word review of Downton Abbey, the movie, is?
My one-word review of the movie is wonderful. It's just wonderful to go back to that world where you're familiar. It's beautiful, and it's just vivid for the eyes. It's vivid for the ears. It's wonderful to hear all the voices again and fall right back into those relationships that you've gotten to know over 6 seasons of the show, and catchphrases and just nuances. And yeah, it was nice to be back. It was a wonderful treat to be there, and a relief, I guess, that it lived up to. I mean, I've been counting down for 11 months. It lived up to the experience that I wanted it to be.
Yeah, I agree. And I feel like both of us, even tonight, seeing it the second time, that moment when the opening music starts and that opening sequence, the motorcycle ride up the long drive, we're both, yay!
Yeah, just that first glimpse of Highclere Castle that you see, it's like, oh, we're coming home, yay! It's a really great manifestation of the TV series that just, it didn't disappoint.
I completely agree with you on that. Can you tell me what some of your favorite parts of the movie were?
Mosley steals the movie.
Absolutely.
The first time I saw it, Mr. Mosley is hilarious, laugh out loud funny in every scene that he's in.
Yeah.
And I know I've enjoyed Mr. Mosley from his jigging to all sorts of stuff in the TV show, but I didn't think that I would never expected to laugh out loud at every scene I saw him in. So then the second time I saw the movie, he was just as funny. Because sometimes you think, okay, maybe I'm just remembering it funnier than it is. No, every single scene where he's like, woo, he's uncontainable. He's so excited about the king and queen. It's endearing and adorable. And then this time, I was like, calm down. It can't be that funny. But Kevin Doyle just brings such a nuance to me, it's not overplayed. It's not hammy.
No.
It is super fun and funny and comedic. And I love hearing the other actors in the cast talk about how much they enjoy working with him and watching him make the most of Mosley.
Yeah.
Yet it's still an ensemble. It's totally an ensemble cast.
In a weird way, his glee is our glee for the movie. Like, he has sort of embodied, not intentionally at all, but his absolute joy that this is happening was a lot like the joy I felt when this movie was announced and when I've seen it.
That's an interesting angle. I like that. I like that he's kind of representing the audience in certain ways. That's a great comparison. I like that a lot. So his unmistakably hilarious scene where he speaks aloud at dinner in the presence of the king and queen. And it's one of those scenes where every audience I've been with does the collective, oh, no, it's like
Right.
it's like the Office moment. It's like the Larry David moment. It's just that super uncomfortable, but not mean-spirited. It's just that gap.
I feel for you.
Yeah. It's that, oh, no. And then they show his, and the directing, I think, is impeccable because it's on his face and you see his look of realization, and then it shows all the other fancy people at the table, and no one is rude to him. No one's mean. It's a look of, please don't. It's a look of, have some manners, have your wits about you. No one's derogatory or mean to him. Everyone's kind of trying to give him the eye of like, you need to go now. Okay,
You're done.
You're finished. Yes, exactly. So I like that it's not a mean-spirited scene, but it's brilliantly directed. So they show all the reactions, and then they keep cutting back to him as he's skulking backwards out of the room. Like, oh my gosh. So that is my all-time favorite scene in the movie, and I think is going to be one of my all-time favorite comedic scenes ever because it's so brilliantly performed and directed. It's just, to me, I thoroughly enjoy it. Other favorite scenes, I am such a Thomas fan, and I'm just so happy that he got such a strong storyline.
Yeah.
And if he wasn't one of my favorite characters, I could see where people might be disappointed and be like, really? Because I know there are a lot of people who never quite warmed up to Thomas, or
I was one of them,
or believed in his journey. But I really, really did. And I really enjoy seeing him on screen. He's a very good actor, Rob James Collier, and I think he still gives it that depth that I feel like he gave in all of the other series. Yeah. So Thomas, always a big favorite. The location scenes, it is Downton Abbey, it is Highclere Castle. It's all that beauty, but bigger than life now.
Yeah.
Harwood House is a real historic place as well. So to see inside and outside of those spaces again, and to be back in the village, all of that in that big screen scale, it's just a real joy.
Oh, yeah. I mean, just those shots of sunrise and sunset and sort of the mist kind of rising off the lawn and those long shots.
Excellent use of drone footage.
Yes, absolutely. Although I will also say, I want to live in Carson and Elsie's little cottage because that looks completely charming to me as well.
Sure, that's cozy.
Were you surprised by anything that happens in the movie?
Surprising. I thought for sure that the Dowager Countess was going to die.
You did?
I did because it's drama. It's Julian Fellows. It is yank your heartstrings.
That's true.
And it's a long list of people who. Okay, I shouldn't say long, but it's a
list.
Yeah, it's an impactful list of major characters who died in the series and left a mark, as they say. So with the Dowager Countess's age, with her importance to the family, she's such a central figure to this story. Yet she's also older.
Yeah.
And how much farther can you take this? I really, really, really thought that they were going to gut punch us and have the Dowager Countess pass away.
So were you disappointed that they didn't?
No, I'm not disappointed. No, not at all.
No, I just mean from an artistic standpoint.
No, I think the story arc of the Dowager Countess aging appropriately and even acknowledging she had a privileged and interesting life and has always orchestrated and tried to oversee and manipulate, try to control as much as she can from her point of view as an older woman, exerting as much power as she can in her ways, Machiavellian, to throw a word around that was thrown around in the movie. I feel like her passing the baton to Mary and articulating that so well was very appropriate, right, and quite real.
Yeah. And I think
as a family,
I think you're right that the death would have been right in Fellows' wheelhouse. But yeah, I don't think it suffered by not pulling that punch.
Right. And the other, I'm thinking of Sybil and Matthew, two major deaths, were sudden and tragic.
Right.
No one wants to see the Dowager Countess fall down the stairs. I mean, like, how are, no one wants that. So I think to have her fade away gracefully with the illness, but be strong, but don't pity me, don't coddle me because she's a tough broad. I think that was all very appropriate. So no, I'm not disappointed that the Dowager didn't kick the bucket. So
I didn't mean it
on the record, for the record, but disappointed. No, because how much can you get done in 2 hours? And I also felt like it was a very good run time. I'm a big James Bond fan, but some of those movies are like 2 hours and 20 minutes, and that's all groovy.
Yeah.
But it's a whole lot of action, too.
Right, yeah, without a car chase.
and one gun that wasn't fired.
And I think the fastest part of the movie is Henry bounding up the stairs at the end.
3 at a time. He's missed his woman. He's been on a boat a long time, Mary.
That's true.
He needs to get to his
He was
Mary.
at a car show in Toronto.
No, Chicago.
Chicago, somewhere.
Yeah.
Long boat home.
Because what's the word? She chucked?
Yes, he can't chuck it, I believe.
Yeah, he can't chuck it.
Ooh, which reminds me, at some point, somebody uses the phrase, and ditto for you, or something.
Bates does.
Yeah, and I thought, is that accurate? Was that timely?
I did notice that.
Yeah.
Mr. Bates says it.
Something.
He's explaining where the page of the backstairs is and the chef, I think. And he says, the page must have gone out. Ditto for the chef. And I don't know where your footmen are or whatever. So, or your footmen went to the other city.
Right, yeah.
Is a long-winded way of placing that. But yes, I don't know where the origin of ditto is.
Yeah, I'm going home and looking that up.
Please do.
I'm going to let you know.
Let me know before I'll make a footnote to the end of our conversation.
So what do you think, sequel or no?
Charming Charlie's prequel.
I know you want that.
Oh, I'm all about a Charming Charlie's prequel. That was Carson's vaudeville act before he was Carson the Butler. For anyone who just doesn't remember that fantastic nugget. It's difficult to say. I will say an official no. But if there is a sequel, I will go. I will want to see. I will want to revisit. I would love for this franchise to keep bringing people together and telling stories. And there's a lot of magic to Downton Abbey. I say no because it did end in a way that you can be satisfied with all of your storylines. You can hope for the best. Everybody didn't get, quote, a happy ending, but you see a positive possibilities for pretty much every character.
Yeah.
Pairing off, making more babies,
Yeah,
that there is hope for the actual house itself, and that they've acknowledged it will have to evolve. Okay. Yay. My concern is, what is that huge storyline that involves the whole family again?
Right.
And how do they do it really, really well? I don't underestimate Gillian Fellows at all.
Right. I mean, we've already had the house during one wartime.
Right. I was chatting with somebody recently who made the point of World War II, like, you don't have servants anymore.
Right.
It's almost like, you and I were talking about college. It's like, okay, that's its own social circumstance. You wind up with a lot of friends because you're going to classes and you're studying groups. You wind up in a very social situation. Once the downstairs staff starts moving on to their cottages and the Bates now have a little one, they're not organically all in the same place. So how do you follow Thomas on his adventures, on his illegal adventures?
Yeah.
Dun, dun, dun. With the royal dude. It's going to pose more questions, and they're going to have to figure out, okay, well, then do we follow Branson? Is it Branson and Mary managing, where is the big plot point? I love Mosley, but I don't know if a Mosley and Baxter get married movie is really what I need or what I'm craving. Maybe Mosley and Baxter and Andy and Daisy start a pig commune. And what happened to Mrs. Patmore's House of Ill Repute?
Right.
Can she run that?
The woman that shows the sketchy guy the room.
Yeah.
He took a room at the end. He totally should have stayed at Mrs. Patmore's.
Oh, yeah. The wannabe assassin?
Yeah.
I found it interesting in the screening that you and I were just at. Did you hear the person gasp when the drawer was pulled out and there was a gun there? I was like, I couldn't believe someone gasped.
Like, did you not see that coming?
I was like, wow, the pistol elicited a gasp. I was kind of surprised and entertained. But that's the beauty of watching the film in a group. It really was fun to hear people giggle and people just enjoying. So no sequel if it can't be done really well. This was a great, big ribbon to put on a 6-season amazing worldwide phenomenon. Yay. Can we just leave it that way? So there's no what is it? Jumping the shark?
Right,
Can we just not jump the shark? That being said, I am such a fan and I just enjoy, I would certainly support and see a sequel, whether it was big screen or my friend Harvey brought up, what if they did a sequel more Netflix-y?
Oh,
which I thought was a really interesting idea. Yeah. You don't try and get the global multi-million dollars cinema audience, which that's evolving, which that's another podcast to talk about.
Right.
But just with the evolution of cinema, is that really viable? Would it be more viable to do it through a streaming service?
Right, because you've got The Crown on Netflix already, Victoria on PBS. So there's clearly an audience for sort of the historical drama.
Right. And BritBox and Acorn. And so I think there's an audience for it. I don't know if it's an audience that will go more than 2 weekends in a row to the cinema. A quick research note, I did look up Ditto, which is a word Mr. Bates said in the movie, but Ditto also appeared in season 5 of Downton Abbey. I just happened to catch the episode on Milwaukee PBS last weekend. Mabel Lane Fox says Ditto at the dinner table at a London restaurant. Charles Blake arranges a surprise supper between himself, Lady Mary, and Mabel, who had been dumped by Tony Gillingham at that point of the show. Lady Mary, who was herself about to dump Tony Gillingham, she arrives at the table and says she didn't expect to see Mabel, and Mabel says, ditto. So ditto comes from Italian language, translated into the word said, and it started being used in English language in the 17th century as slang for same. Who knew it went that far back? I also looked up Coco Chanel after Mo mentioned noticing Lady Mary's freckles, and yep, Coco Chanel introduced the concept of suntanning in 1923 after she accidentally got sunburned in the French Riviera on a yacht. So just a couple years later, a tan started becoming synonymous with wealth and luxury. Now, of course, it's a gateway to skin cancer, so use your SPF lotion. A big thanks to everyone who appeared in this episode of Downton Blabby, especially Meg Olssen. See if you can spy Meg wearing her headband and holding a champagne glass in the ballroom scene in Downton Abbey when you stream the film or watch the DVD. Meg also appears in a modern-day anti-bullying video. I've posted that on the Downton Blabby Facebook page. And the tally now of one-word movie reviews so far by my Downton Blabby guests: 3 brilliants, 2 fantastics, an amazing, charming, entertaining, fun, luxurious, satisfying, and wonderful. How do your thoughts compare to all the ones you've heard? I want to know your review of the movie. Did you see it on the big screen? Have you streamed it at home or as you're commuting? Email me. Comment on social media. You can find me at Sandy Max. Also, Downton Blabby on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Your opinion matters to me. And your rating at Apple Podcasts and anywhere you're listening helps let me know what you like to hear and also helps other fans find Downton Blabby. It's a whole algorithm thing. So please rate, review, subscribe on Apple, Spreaker, Stitcher, wherever you like to listen. I really appreciate it. On the next episode, the man who named the Downton Blabby podcast. He is my longtime friend, John Suntress of the Word Balloon podcast. And John took me up on the idea of having him go to the cinema to see the movie and let me know how he enjoyed it without ever having seen an episode. He'll be honest with me, and I may have to pay him back for his movie ticket. I'm Sandy Max. Thank you for listening, and please join me for the next episode of Downton Blabby.
You devious cat.